Prepare for trouble. Make it double. Now I know why they like saying all that dumb stuff so much. This is fun. Well, now that that's out of the way, on to the podcast. Hey, I'm Veronica Taylor.
And I'm Rena Taylor.
And this is The Trainer's Guide.
Today's episode,
Ditto's Mysterious Mansion. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back to episode 35. Crazy. We are into this first season, deep in.
We're deep in, and it's just getting better and better, I feel like.
Yeah, we were just in Buffalo last weekend. We had an incredible time. We met so many wonderful people, and we saw so many wonderful buildings.
Yes, Buffalo is a really cool town. I think it's got a lot going on. We watched some of the Copa
soccer
football,
matches. Yeah,
outside at one of the. It wasn't really a brewery,
brew pub
but
kind of place.
I don't know about you, but I think I've talked about this before, but brewery is really hard for me to say. So I have to find a different way to say it.
A spot where they had tables outside to consume beverages of your choice, actually. You could say that. But
yes.
It was a lovely time. The show was great. We were at Nickel City Comic Con. I'm having trouble saying anything, apparently.
Yeah, that's okay.
And so, interestingly, it did rain a bit. And in this episode, we start off with a storm.
A storm. It just comes out of the blue, out of nowhere. And Ash, Misty, and Brock luckily find a building that is open.
Yes.
So they go in. It's quite mysterious right off the bat because nobody's in there except for another Pikachu.
Which Pikachu goes right up to.
Yeah.
And they are stunned.
Yeah, it's very shocking. But it has an interesting face. It doesn't look like Pikachu. It's like, it's hard to describe.
Well, it has dots for eyes.
Yes, and just a very kind of thin smile.
Yeah, thin, straight, squiggly smile.
Yes. And so Ash says, oh, it's a different type of Pikachu. I've got to catch it. So he goes off. He tries to catch it. Pikachu uses Thunderbolt. And
what a crazy, innovative thing to use Thunderbolt.
Yeah, totally. It's such a new attack.
Yes.
We've never seen it before. And then he's intercepted by another Pokeball and another trainer that looks exactly like him.
Ashy boy.
Hey, Ashy boy.
Yeah, and it's Duplica.
Yes.
From the House of Imité, which I think is quite interesting. And Duplica wants to become a Ditto master.
Yeah, so we find out that the Pikachu is actually a Ditto, which is a transform Pokemon. So that means that it can transform into any Pokemon. And what we learn later is basically anything that it wants.
Right.
Yeah.
And its only attack is transform.
Right. So it transforms into I think it can transform into anything. I don't think it has to be looking at the Pokemon.
Well,
right?
Do you mean like looking at it? Oh, no, it can do anything.
Because Duplica, in order to demonstrate her Ditto's strength, she challenges Ash to a battle. And so Ash uses Bulbasaur, and then Duplica's Ditto transforms into Bulbasaur too.
That's
does it have
clear.
to be looking at, because then later on we see it transform into other things.
Right.
But those things are in the space with it. So I wonder if it can, maybe it has to be looking at something in order to transform.
I did not think about that. I don't know.
Well, anyway, it can transform, and we learn in this battle with Ash and Bulbasaur that it can also imitate attacks. So Duplica needs to know not only all of the Pokemon that exist, but also all of their attacks and how to kind of battle with each one.
Right. She has to know what's stronger against different Pokemon, what moves they can make, all of that stuff. She has to have all of the knowledge,
right?
Which I think is interesting. One of the great things is that Brock, he's so intuitive in this episode.
Yes.
When Duplica comes out dressed as Ash,
right,
looking exactly like him except for blue hair,
right?
He knows that it's not a guy, that it's a girl.
Yes.
And Misty says, how do you know that?
man's intuition.
Yes. And then later, he also says Duplica
Right.
has to have all the knowledge so he can understand where she's coming from and isn't so freaked out like Ash is.
Yeah, and so Duplica ends up beating Ash in this battle with his real Bulbasaur and her Ditto
Quote,
Bulbasaur.
yeah, her fake.
And,
Right.
and Ash is really upset because, her Pokemon beat, quote, the real thing.
He says, how could I lose to such a big fake?
Right.
And he's sulking by the window.
Yeah, he's sulky. He's sulky in the beginning of this episode. So it's an interesting thing because we start to think about like how does
imitation
come in to play here? Because she needs to know all the attacks. So in that sense, she has to be super powerful and knowledgeable in all these things. And her Ditto also has to be really powerful because it has to do these attacks. But is that, how does that, I don't know, going against the real thing, what does that mean?
We all struggle with imitation as an idea and in action, as we say. Like the fact that so many people imitate others.
Right.
To imitate someone's voice, you still have to understand the mechanics behind it. But I do think that eventually you have to learn how to make something your own.
Yeah, I mean, even when you are like learning to draw, for example, a lot of people say the best way to learn is by copying somebody's style that you really like, because then you get to know the feel for how does it feel with my hand drawing this shape, or how does it feel to kind of draw in this way, and then that will help you then later down the line to develop your own style. But a lot of artists suggest copying in the beginning, so you get the idea, you get the feel for how it...
You learn the mechanics, kind of.
How it works.
I think it's interesting, too, as we go off on this tangent for a second, but the whole idea of AI, because it is culling from what exists really on the internet. Right. So it's taking voices, it's taking art and creating something that is devoid of imagination in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially for any of you guys listening who do imitations or things like that, it takes a lot of creativity to listen to somebody, specifically, let's just take imitating somebody's voice or a character.
Right.
It takes a lot of creativity to listen to that and then to figure out how to make your voice and the mechanics of your body fit into that. And then on top of that, taking then that skill that you have and making it into your own. And I think where AI or using the computer in that sense to do that, it takes out a lot of creativity, because it's not the computer itself is not listening and going, okay, how can I make this work, and how can I make this my own? It's just kind of regurgitating that information rather than putting a different spin on it.
Right. It's pulling from what exists.
Right.
Or what it's found already on the internet, which is why so much art is imitated in that style, but it's not really, when you are drawing something or you're acting something, you can put a little spin on it that's unexpected. And I think that's what you're saying. It doesn't bring anything kind of unexpected.
Yeah, and it doesn't add anything to it. A lot of this stuff of copying, or when you a lot of this is have you put your own spin on it? Have you added something to something that already exists?
Right.
And I think that the problem with the replicating of AI is that it's not adding anything new. It's just doing the same thing that people are already doing.
Well, interestingly, Duplica then shows all of her costumes.
Right.
And so she dresses up as Nurse Joy. She pops out, or Officer Jenny, and she can you can see how she takes on their voice or their stance. And all of us love to dress up in costumes. Totally. We have a Halloween for that, or even cosplay at all these different Comic-Cons where you can inhabit the characters. And in some ways, you learn a bit about yourself when you are someone else.
Yeah, totally.
It's a great way to, I don't know, discover many things, discover how that person might think, and then at the same time how you might think.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, too, Duplica her thing is she doesn't want to be a master. She doesn't want to be a trainer, a Pokemon trainer. She wants to be an entertainer, and her form of entertainment is through imitating Pokemon.
Right.
And so she puts on these outfits like Gloom or Metapod or Psyduck, and she becomes those Pokemon. And I think the thing about, the humor behind that, that's why SNL is so funny, these parodies of people, is that you can do a great imitation, but you also, through that, are bringing out, a little bit of yourself you're bringing into it, but then you're also pointing out some of the, the funny things about why is Gloom so funny? And when you look at her imitation of it, oh my gosh, the face is so hilarious. Or she does a Bulbasaur and it's so funny. And I think, that kind of parody of it brings to light some of the funny or humorous or, the sad or deep meanings of all these things that maybe you wouldn't see just by looking at the real Pokemon.
That's right.
So she wants to put on a show, but the problem that she's been having is that her Ditto can't change its face. So it can't transform its face. It can do the whole body of the Pokemon or whatever it's doing, but the face stays the same, which I think is kind of cute.
It's amazing, too, that she just pulls Pokemon out of the audience and has Ditto transform into them.
During her show. It's hilarious.
What I didn't like is that the audience gets so upset, as if they are expecting such perfection instead of seeing the fun and entertainment value of her in a costume and the Ditto, essentially, in a costume.
Because the Ditto will, transform into the Machoke or something, but its face stays the same. And so then people are like, oh, it can't transform. It's a fake. It's not doing it. But it's doing basically everything other than its face.
It reminds
me... But they don't like it.
No, but it reminds me of how on social media, sometimes people put out something and ask a question, and you get all of this negativity instead of people just saying, wow, great idea, or actually helping to answer. So I think we can all learn a little from this, that it doesn't take too much energy to be positive.
True.
To help and support in a situation.
Yeah. And I mean, she says people don't like to watch an imperfect transformation. And I think that that's also going off of that for social media. People don't like, or even, celebrity stuff or whatever. Some people don't like to watch something that's not perfect, or a person that's not just has no flaws and is beautiful or whatever, or somebody who falls into the standards of beauty or stuff that we have. Right. And I think, again, we're all trying our best, and you have to look beyond that and see somebody for who they really are, for the human that they are, for the Pokemon that they are.
And the humor that they are.
Just
and so have a little fun.
Right. So I think people take things too seriously sometimes, but also have these expectations of perfection that, if you tried to transform perfectly into a Pokemon, would you? No. So, I think that's, again, something good to remember.
That we can all lighten up a little bit and have some fun.
Exactly. And then speaking of fun, Team Rocket come in.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. They come in and successfully, they steal Ditto.
Weezing uses smokescreen and suddenly Ditto is gone.
Yep. And they have successfully stolen it, and they bring it back to their little house that has a gigantic Meowth head on it.
That's amazing.
Which I think we find out later is their hot air balloon. So they've just built, or something, they've built a house around the hot air balloon.
Almost to keep it in place.
Yeah, which
because
I think is genius.
The house falls apart and it takes off later on, right?
Genius.
Not to give too much away. But so they have Ditto. Yeah. And they are trying to get it to, they're devising a plan, actually, of how they want Ditto to change.
The goal is for it to change into Dratini, because apparently that is the one Pokemon that they can't catch, or I don't know what, but that is their gift to the boss.
So they go into the scene. Right. Everything in this episode is people acting things out, dressing up in costumes, imitating others, which is a great theme. But they start this scene, and James is there with a Dratini sign on a stick.
Right, because they're presenting, so Jesse's the boss.
As Giovanni.
Right, and so they're presenting him with the Dratini, and basically their dream is that he'll get this and go, you can take over. Right. As head of Team Rocket. And they're like, okay, if you insist, But before they get it to change into Dratini, Jessie...
She decides.
Jessie gets a photo of her first love.
Yes.
Of this little boy back when she was a little girl too.
Yes.
And she wants Ditto to show her what he would look like as a grown-up. Which I don't know if it could do that.
But Ditto transforms into the photograph.
Into the photo, but again, with Ditto's face.
Yes.
So then, James and Meowth are laughing because, first of all, that she has a boyfriend, and second of all, that her boyfriend's face is so janky. It's very funny. And then it licks her.
Yes. And then so transforms into a book.
Well, yeah, because they've got a book. The only picture of Dratini that they have is in this book. And so they're saying, change into this, and then Ditto is very, in that sense, Amelia Bedelia, like very literal.
Yes.
And then it transforms into the book. And then basically Jessie and James are so mean to it.
They threaten Ditto.
They threaten it because they're getting it to try and change into Meowth, and they're threatening it, and they're so mean that Ditto gets so scared that its face changes.
It learns how to transform, quote, properly. Yeah. Which I don't think is a great lesson for all of us. There is the lesson of we all learn in different ways.
Totally. I
don't think we need to be so mean and bullying.
No. Violence and anger never really works.
No.
It's not a good way of teaching, but it does get Ditto to change. So, in the long run, Duplica gets her wish, but it's not really through the best.
That's true.
We
flash back to Ash, of course, sitting around with Misty and Brock and Duplica. And he comes to this amazing conclusion that the progress of the Pokemon and the power that it has are directly connected to the trainer.
Right.
And the progress that the trainer is making.
Yeah. Which is really interesting. I think that is something that we've learned, like the Pokemon training, a Pokemon is only as good as its trainer.
Right, and together, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting that he has this thought, especially related to the Ditto, because, originally he doesn't think that it really counts as a Pokemon in that sense, because it doesn't do anything on its own. It just imitates others. But in a sense, again, like we've been talking about, that strength is due to Duplica's mastery of the subject and also their hard work and dedication, just like his.
Right.
Their goal is different, but the way they kind of train and get to that point is very similar.
Right.
So it's really interesting.
Yeah, you learn together in a way. Yeah. And so I guess, Pidgeotto and Zubat fly in.
Yeah, so they're off looking for them, and they find Team Rocket, and so the gang decides to give them a little surprise of their own when they go to find them.
Which I think is really one of the best scenes we've had ever.
It is really the best. I'm going to try and record some of it or get a screen grab or something to post on social media because you have to see this.
It's so great. We've got all four of them, Ash, Misty, Brock, and Duplica,
they
dressed
utilize
as
Duplica's costume closet.
Yes.
And they come disguised as Team Rocket.
It's amazing.
It's so funny. And they do the motto. They get it a little wrong. I think they say to ignite all peoples within our nation instead of unite.
That's right.
And Jessie and James are pretty mad about the whole thing. They don't love it. They're not honored by the imitation. That's for sure. But Ash, it's so funny. And at the end, he's like, "That was so fun." They're like, "Wow, I love that."
Yeah, no wonder they do this all the time.
Right? Exactly. Like so funny. I don't know. And then Duplica goes, "Maybe we should all be actors." And they laugh. And
they
laugh
all
and
laugh. And then, but they are actors.
Yeah.
So
surprise.
Then Team Rocket hands back Meowth.
Right.
Says, "Okay, fine, you can have your Ditto Meowth back."
Yeah, because Duplica goes, "Oh my gosh, you got Ditto's face to change. Thank you so much. I've been waiting." And she's so happy and everybody's crying. Team Rocket's crying. And Ash goes, "Maybe we should let's not battle. Let's just hand Ditto over, And Jessie and James go, "Oh yes, of course. We'll do it your way this time." And so they hand Ditto back, but they actually give them Meowth.
The real Meowth. And then the house falls apart. The balloon flies up.
Right.
And it is Duplica who knows.
She
this
knows
is not
right
my
away.
Meowth,
Right.
my Ditto.
She knows right away. So she throws Meowth onto the balloon.
Catapults it, kind of.
Ditto
She's got
Meowth,
quite an arm.
Yeah, Ditto Meowth bites Jessie's arm and falls down into Duplica's arms. And then Team Rocket get a cannon in the bottom of their balloon. And then Duplica gets Ditto to transform into a cannon. Ash gets Pikachu to go into the cannon. They shoot Pikachu out. the cannon of Team Rocket shoots a net out. Pikachu electrocutes them all, and they blast off
through the net. Yes.
And the rest is history.
Crazy.
I mean, that actually happened.
Yeah.
And me describing it.
And very fast.
Yeah, it sounds so crazy, but that is real. And it was amazing.
And then it was over, and they get Ditto to transform into Pikachu, and everyone is really happy.
Yeah, because they can do it.
That's right.
Finally, she can open her theater again and entertain wanderers, and it's pretty amazing.
And then we end the whole episode with Team Rocket forcing Meowth into a Dratini costume to present to the boss.
Right.
And of course, then they start battling because Meowth, as most pets, does not want to be dressed up. Yeah. And so we have this horrible fight.
Cats, especially. Cats don't like outfits.
They do not, usually.
So that makes sense that he doesn't like it.
Yeah, we used to try to put some things on our cats. Hats,
really. They didn't like it.
Did not like it.
But we also would put those, we had like little pieces of fabric that, like a little blanket.
Yes.
That we would put on them.
And have them walk around with the blanket on.
And they'd walk around, but they would like slink and like lie down because they don't like the weight of it.
No,
so
but it was
sometimes they would wear it.
It was like a light pink velvet.
Yeah, but even that, like you'd put it on and they would like, just kind of just turn into jelly.
But when they were kittens, they would wear it. It was so cute. That is a tangent.
They were really cute.
They had their own secret powers, which was just being cute.
That's true.
And wonderful.
That's true. And being able to sleep everywhere.
Yes, on my head, on my chest.
Yeah.
Yes, in the closet with the towels.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah, they would. I forgot about that. Oh my gosh.
That's a tiny tangent for our two cats who are no longer with us, but who gave us great joy.
That's true.
So, which is, I guess, why we kind of do have a soft spot for Meowth.
Yeah,
ultimately.
And he does scratch just like cats scratch all the time. And even though you hate that, you still love them in the end. So, I mean, yeah. I do wish that sometimes our pets could talk like Meowth could.
Oh my gosh.
Because I would love to know what they're actually thinking.
You could kind of tell, though.
I mean, yeah, you know. You pretty much know. But I would love, I don't know. It's kind of great that Jesse and James can talk to Meowth and that he's a big part of their team. It's really cool.
You know, I also wanted to bring up, we saw Hell's Kitchen, the Alicia Keys kind of origin story on Broadway. And it was remarkable, I think, how it fits kind of into this episode, because you can see how she is trying to find herself.
Right.
She is living in Manhattan in Hell's Kitchen, and she has to learn from those in the community, specifically this one woman who teaches her piano. Yeah. She's learning how to be herself as a 17-year-old. And it was, first of all, this was an incredible show.
Yeah. If you can see the show, you should. If you can only listen to the soundtrack, you should. Like, find any way to absorb this show.
It was a tour de force.
Yeah.
It was life-changing.
Talent is unbeatable, unmatchable. I mean, it was mind-blowing. It was mind-blowing what these people could do and how they could sing and the dancers and, oh my gosh, the whole show itself was just... It was incredible.
And I think it does fit into this because we all have to figure out who we are, how to find our voice, and deal with family issues. Yeah. Some apparent maybe being there or not being there. How we deal with, with Ash, he has his mom, and she's always around for whatever he needs, even though he doesn't feel like he needs her.
Right.
Everyone always asks about Ash's dad, who's not really around, just like in this. Alicia Keys' dad, or Allie, as she is in this. Her dad wasn't really around. He was doing his best, which was not often good enough.
The best for her.
Yeah. And so anyway, it was really remarkable, and that's kind of real life Ash Ketchum. Story in some ways.
On our journey. And I think, Ash's journey to become the very best is not only, to become a master and collect all the badges and get the trophy, but also to be the best person. And an internal journey as well as an external one.
It mirrors our own.
Yeah.
And we are Ash Ketchum, all of us.
That's
and
true.
You can see the story in others' lives and our own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think this is a good time for the Poke Wrap Up,
where we hear from you, the Pokemon community.
We asked you to send in your Pokemon stories, memories, and inspirations.
And here is one of this week's.
This is from Julie in Aledo, Texas, and she writes, Pokemon has made a huge impact on my life, and I wanted to share. It was my very first anime, and I remember through part of 4th grade and all of 5th grade, 98 and 99, it was just massive. We were all completely obsessed with this brand new game and show with adorable and powerful creatures, and we all instantly had our favorites, Vulpix for me. Even the cool kids liked Pokemon. Pokemon, and close on its heels, Sailor Moon and Cardcaptor Sakura, really ignited my love of art and writing, and I ended up with a major in English and an art minor. Hopefully, I'll finally get around to making my own manga at some point and create characters that inspire others as much as Ash and the gang inspired me as a kid. Thank you for all the joy you brought to my childhood. And thank you, Julie, for sharing your wonderful story with us. And we want to hear from all of you.
Email us a short recording or write to us at trainersguidepod@gmail.com.
And try to keep it short, maybe 30 seconds or so, because we don't want to have to edit.
Oh, and please include your first name and where you're from.
Well, that about wraps up today's episode of The Trainer's Guide. And, as they say, to be continued. We hope that you continue to join us on this journey that is The Trainer's Guide.
As you know, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Wherever you're listening now.
And if you subscribe, comment, and rate the podcast, it helps others find the show and keeps us on the air.
Thank you so much in advance for your generosity and all of your amazing support.
Trainer's Guide is a production of Boom Integrated.
We are co-executive producing this along with
the amazing Adrian Glover
and the incomparable Robin Lai. I'm your host, Veronica Taylor.
And I'm your host, Rena Taylor.
And this has been The Trainer's Guide. We'll see you out there on the road.